Pickaxe.
Hello and welcome to the podcast version of this week's One Life Left radio show. I am Simon Byron.
I am Steve Curran.
Packed show today, Steve, despite the absence of a super special guest.
It was a bit full on, but that's because we both got quite angry in the review section, I think. Didn't leave enough space for it. Simon, I'm very worried about your mic's quality.
I'm a bit worried about the levels of all the idents and the beds. They've been very loud for me.
Have they? You sound husky, I think.
Well, I am pretty sexy today. Ed said that he can hear me blowing out. Is it topping out? Have I?
You've been doing that. Or the top end, Simon, is just, it's topped out. It's topped.
Well, it's very simple, isn't it? Let me adjust the difficulty levels in your video games, and then I'll calm down.
You're all right when you're not leaning forward. But when you lean back, like that, speak now.
Yep.
Well, now you're shouting, so it's worse.
I'm not shouting.
See, that sounded good.
Okay.
That sounds
you would have thought we'd have got used to this. Well, and in which case, apologies not only for the poor content, but the poor quality of the poor content that you're about to enjoy. I'm sorry about that. Steve, one thing we've not talked about is your experience with artificial intelligence and One Life Left's history and stuff like that.
Yeah, we should talk about that because I've been doing some work with AI over the last 6 weeks or so. Hopefully in a non-problematic way, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Maybe if I manage to put out a little game in the next couple of weeks. But the essence of that has led me to explore a lot about what the internet knows about One Life Left.
Far away.
Well, I can't because you've sprung this onto me, and I don't have my OpenAI window, and my I don't have all that data in front of me. But one of the things that we were surprised about was that it gave you a nickname, didn't it, Simon?
Did it? Did it give me, or did it just find out? It trawled, all the archives and all the forums. Maybe that just is my name. It just is.
No. This is the interesting thing, right? So, ChatGPT, which everyone's using at the moment, is very, very smart and at the same time very, very stupid. The most important thing to note about it is when it knows something, it really does know something, and it knows a surprising amount. Like it does know about One Life Left. It genuinely does. But when it doesn't know something, it also sounds really, really smart, and it completely bluffs and it lies to you. And it is impossible to distinguish between those two aspects of its character. So when it's talking and confidently talking to you, when it introduces you, it says its hosts are, Steve Curran, Anne Scantlebury, and Simon Bainesy Byron. You're like, well, where's
such
that
a missed
come
opportunity?
from?
Why didn't we do that from the start?
Well, quite. And the thing is, when I discovered this, what I was doing was I was getting it to write scripts for One Life Left, right? I was getting it to write fake scripts and using prompts like, okay, you are the producer of a video game radio show, One Life Left. Do me a script for the opening 5 minutes, and it would do that. But then I tried something different, right? I tried to, the other popular video game podcast, A Life Well Wasted, which is famous for doing these beautiful, in-depth pieces. Well, I thought, what would it be like if it did a Life Well Wasted on the history of One Life Left? So I thought, it'd be nice to see what, they think of us through the eyes of someone else. And so I got it to write that script, and I can read the start of that script out to you right now if you want.
Please do.
It goes, narrator, welcome to A Life Well Wasted, the show that explores the interesting, unique, and often overlooked corners of the video game world. Today, we're taking a look back at one of the most beloved gaming podcasts of all time, One Life Left, right? Good start.
True. Yeah.
Plays the intro music. Narrator, One Life Left first launched in 2006 and quickly gained a devoted following for its irreverent and hilarious take on the world of video games. Hosted by Steve Curran, Anne Scantlebury and Simon Boring Byron. The show featured a mix of interviews, game reviews and off-the-wall segments that always kept listeners on their toes. What? Like...
I mean, it's just saying what everybody's thinking, isn't it? It's just brave enough. This AI doesn't care about social norms or niceties. It's just speaking from the heart.
Yeah, it goes on, right? Archival audio clip from One Life Left. Steve, hey, so this is from the archives. It goes, Steve, hey everyone, and welcome to One Life Left. Simon, the only video game podcast that's been banned from the International Space Station, and for good reason. That's pretty good content.
Thanks very much, AI. Here's the show.
Hello, good evening and welcome to One Life Left. We are a video game radio show based in London, in England. We talk about video games. That's what a video game radio show does. And my name is Steve Curran.
Hello to you. I am Simon Byron.
How are you, Simon?
I'm all right, Steve. A bit tired today. It's turning cold again, isn't it? The shed has a chill to it today. I'm recording 9.8 degrees centigrade.
That is very, very cold. Apparently, we're going to get snow next week.
Do you want to know what the relative humidity is?
I would love to.
69%.
What does that mean?
It says wet. I mean,
okay.
Isn't it just?
So,
yes, I've had to turn the heater off to record so as not to get too much background noise, which means that the temperature is going to decline over the hour. We'll have an update for you later, Steve, when you see me icicles running from my nose.
Well, it is a toasty temperature in South London.
Are you wearing trousers?
I am wearing trousers and a jumper. Any other questions? You can
How
see all of
how
this.
Formal. Well, I can't see the trousers, can I?
Would you like to?
That would imply I don't believe you when you say you're wearing them. Why change the habit of a lifetime, Steve? You told me it was lucky.
Well, Simon, I've told you a lot of things over the last 15 or 16 years, and some of them have turned out to be true. As listeners to the One Life Left archive will be able to discover for themselves. Have you seen one of our listeners is listening to One Life Left's from 2011, 2012?
As live.
They're going back and discovering...
I mean, everything was better then, wasn't it?
I think if I could live 10 years ago, I would choose to do that.
I was saying this only today to Jonathan Smith, actually, as we were walking through Cambridge. It's just gone downhill since 2012, hasn't it?
I would like, if listeners are... intent on combing the One Life Left archives, and I would discourage it generally, but if you are, I would definitely love someone to make a supercut of all the times you've talked about hanging out with Jonathan Smith, and A, how lovely he is, and then B, the lovely situation in which you've been in with him, e.g. all those little camping trips you've been on.
Don't cast aspersions, Steve. I've been on one camping trip with Jonathan Smith, actually.
The only thing
I imply that I go camping with Jonathan Smith frequently. Yeah. I've done it once.
Feels like more than once. So maybe it's just my envy raging. You commonly reference him, though, Simon. Well, you know what? I don't have to back this up. I'll let our diligent listeners comb the up, or maybe we'll leave it up to AI. A few years' time, we'll be able to drop onto the internet and just ask, and they'll be able to tell us what Simon's relationship with Jonathan Smith.
He featured heavily in our relationship early on. Steve, do you remember when we went? When he was responsible. We should say, by the way, Jonathan Smith from TT Games, a dear friend of ours. He was the responsible adult when we surprised a blog user when we used to have a blog and we used to have users.
Yeah, those were good times, and that was pre-2012, wasn't it? 2006 or 2007. Anyway.
Why is the listening started at 2011? Why is that an appropriate entry point into the OLL universe?
I don't remember. I mean, if you want to find out, it's on our Discord.
Well, no, or I guess I could wait 12 years for them to catch up with this show, and then maybe they can write in. Come on, we're hanging on. What was it?
Answer the question. Well, looking forward to that answer. Anyway, we are a video game radio show. Simon and I record this once a week on a Sunday night. You are welcome to join us live for the recording by clicking on the URL that we post in our Discord at that time.
Indeed, if you want to come camping, just don't tell Steve.
And we will be talking about video games imminently, I guess. Once Simon and I have caught up, we've got the news section. I've dug out a couple of news stories, just in case you hadn't, Simon.
I have the requisite 5.
I did that in lieu of failing to get our feature correspondent to provide a feature this week as well. She continues to refuse to do that.
I heard her on Richard Herring's podcast.
Yeah,
she's turned up. She's guesting elsewhere. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely outrageous. And we will have the review section at the end of the show. I've played a video game I'm quite cross about.
Me too.
Interesting. Maybe it's the same one. Letters section in the middle of the show. Still time to get your letters in. If you are listening to us live, you can post those in the Discord or email us at team@onelifeleft.com. And we don't have a guest.
No, Steve, I've not had you to myself for a while, so I said back off, guests.
Well, that's fine. We'll make it through regardless. We do have a queue of guests, but if anyone out there wants to come on the show and has a video game related reason for doing so, please, drop us a line, and we will have a guest next week, won't we, Simon?
Yes, Steve.
All right. Shall we get on with the news?
Let's get on with the news.
One life left. Video game news with Anne Scantleberry.
It's 7:07 on Monday the 16th of January 2023. I am not Anne Scantleberry, but this is the news. Video games outsold home and video and music in the UK for the 11th time in a row last year, according to a new report. The Digital Entertainment and Retail Association (ERA) reports that games accounted for 42.1% of total entertainment revenue in 2022. Sales also reportedly grew by 2.3% compared with 2021, reaching a total of £4.664 billion. Victory was a narrow one, however, thanks to a large surge in revenue for video last year, up 14.4% to £4.432 billion. The report's video game sales figures take into account physical software sales, digital console downloads, PC and mobile games, as well as, in quotes, a variety of other subscription and token-based playing mechanisms. Its video sales figures, meanwhile, count not only DVD, Blu-ray and 4K disc sales, but also digital rentals and purchases, as well as subscriptions to streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus and Amazon Prime. And as for music, which includes physical CD and vinyl sales, as well as subscriptions to services like Spotify, sales grew 3%, but at £1.986 billion, the market was still a distant third behind games and video. Take that, music. That was from VideoGamesChronicle.com, as all my news is. Thanks as ever to them for doing the hard work. This story on that site, Steve, is accompanied by a picture of happy punters in game. And he's picking up, he's got a plastic bag, he's very happy. It's not clear what he's buying. When was the last time you were in a game?
I genuinely don't know. I don't know when the last time I went into any kind of... Well, actually, I know the last time I went into a store specifically to look at the video game section was I saw you around that time. You had recently bought a video game from there. It was in San Francisco. I went to the GameStop.
Almost a year ago.
And you went to buy, what was that, Kirby or something?
It was Kirby. Well remembered, Steve. Which you implied I wasn't going to like, and I was going to throw in a canal. Wrong. Sucks to be you. Because I did it. I finished it. And I lent it to my wife, who then, I don't think, played... she played a little bit of it, but hasn't.
And then threw it in the canal. Right, understandable. So I was right. I was right ultimately.
That was it was over $60. That was.
And I've not been into a game store, since that point. I don't know when the last time I even saw a game on the high street was.
They sell all sorts these days, not just games. This picture has some signage which says clothing.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, look, we did well. We did well last year, Steve, didn't we? £4.664 billion. How much of that did you make?
Not a billion.
No. When is it going to be our turn?
Well, good question. I am always slightly sceptical about these number stories because you can array these numbers in any way to prove your point. And my feeling about the games industry is there is a great deal of difference between some sections of the industry that make a ridiculous amount of money, and indeed some of the products inside those sections, which, you know, some people would say that's not a game. Now, we believe everything's a game, right? Everything's a game if it wants to be. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to say that things aren't games, but I am trying to say that gaming is so broad that it seems ridiculous just to compare the whole industry to music and to film and to other things. It seems unfair to those industries. Instead, I'd like to look at, you know, what percentage of that is console games, for example, do we know?
It doesn't say.
If you separate the kind of free-to-play mobile market from those, or indeed, you know, the subdivide it by genres, I think that you find some games these days have more in common with TV and movies than they do with, for example, I don't know, games that are purely gameplay based.
Well, they're not having any of our billions, Steve. They can keep their hands off.
Did anything I just said make sense, Simon? I've been sort of, you know, wondering whether I said anything at all there.
It broadly did. To be honest, I was checking how much we made in November off video games, and the answer was £55.73.
Not bad. I'll take that.
Ubisoft's CEO reportedly tells staff the onus is on them to reverse the company's fortunes. Following weaker than expected software sales over the holiday season and a new day for Skull and Bones, the company slashed its revenue forecast for the current fiscal year. It also cancelled 3 unannounced games and said it plans to make some €200 million in cost cuts over the next 2 years through targeted restructuring, divesting some non-core assets, and usual natural attrition. Skull and Bones will now be released during Ubisoft's next fiscal year, which begins in April and runs until March 2024. During this period, Ubisoft said it's also planning to release Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, and other yet-to-be-announced premium games, including a large one, as well as promising free-to-play. It's a large one. Stand back, everybody. There's a large one coming through, as well as promising free-to-play titles for some of our biggest brands. In an email sent to employees on Wednesday and viewed by Kotaku, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot said these delays had weighed on our costs and decreased our associated revenues. Today, more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success, he wrote. I am asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible. Guillemot also urged staff to deliver on what he called the biggest pipeline in Ubisoft history, writing, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving." That sounds like fun, Steve. Doesn't that sound like fun? Aren't video games fun?
Does sound like fun, doesn't it? Sounds like people are not going to be getting business class flights to GDC, are they? They're going to be in economy.
No. Commenting on Ubisoft's financial update on Wednesday, Reed Pop's head of games, B2B, Christopher Dring, claimed Ubisoft was suffering compared to other big publishers because its lack of significant live service game to fill release gap. The big issue for Ubisoft isn't its structure, not really. It's the fact it doesn't have a live service game of any significance, he wrote. Look at the publishers worth billions. It's all about that one title that prints money continuously, GTA Online, FIFA, COD, Fortnite, etc. It means that Ubisoft is so reliant on having a good release schedule to drive performance. I think that's what it's trying to do with Assassin's Creed. I think what it's trying to do with Assassin's Creed is the right play. So they've said that Assassin's Creed, this next Assassin's Creed, Steve, is going to be smaller than the most recent ones, and I think that's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. Like we've said this for years and years and years, that we're, I'd love the opportunity to get involved in more rich AAA games rather than just pick one every 6 months and go, okay, this is the thing I'm going to play for 40 hours and then go, yeah, that was fine. I'd like to play 5 different things and think that was fine, or ideally more. If the next Assassin's Creed is going to be smaller,
a little tiny
adorable,
that's what it'll be. Yeah, it's going to be smaller.
Is that going to help resolve the bigger problem? I think the person from Reed Pop has got it spot on, at least from the financial side, that the smart play for Ubisoft is to make a live service game that works. Of course, that's what they've been trying to do, but they've got to keep at it, right?
They do, yeah. A couple of their multiplayer games haven't lasted particularly long, have they? So let's see. Anyway, it's not down to you and me, Steve. It's down to the staff to get on it and get it right. So looking forward to seeing what they're able to achieve. The Callisto Protocol has reportedly seen disappointing sales numbers, failing to recoup a reported $162 million budget. This has caused investors in publisher Krafton to lower their target stock price in response. According to MK Odyssey, the game reportedly cost over 200 billion won to develop, a budget that the sales of the game have not matched. During development, the game was referred to as quadruple A. You're right to stop the music there. I mean, come on, who's been listening to the guys at Sega? This is good. No, forget AAA. This is quadruple A. Suggesting that no expense was spared, despite the game being a new IP in a niche genre that rarely produces massive sales numbers. For comparison, Resident Evil Village, the 8th mainline entry in the hugely popular franchise, managed 6 million units in its first 6 months, despite the profile of the franchise and strong reviews. According to Samsung Securities, Krafton had expected the Callisto Protocol to sell around 5 million copies. However, considering the current sales ranking, cumulative sales of 2 million copies will not be easy until this year. The brainchild of Dead Space creator and Striking Distance CEO Glenn Schofield, the Callisto Protocol challenges players to escape a maximum security prison on Jupiter's moon Callisto in the year 2320 after a mysterious outbreak begins transforming its inmates into monstrous creatures. Krafton's stock price already took a hit following reviews of the game being published. So, more indications. It's tricky out there, Steve, isn't it?
I was chatting to someone this week about the idea of betting your future on a game. On making a game and building something with the idea that, this is brilliant and this is going to come out and it's going to change our lives and going to, create financial security for everybody involved, and then we'll make game 2 and game 3. Now, I believe in my abilities as a game designer, and I believe that my ideas are great, and I believe in my team, but I would never, ever, ever bet that something I'm going to make is successful, because it is a lottery, right? You cannot bank on everything coming together, not just your project, but the market being in the right place and some other team not releasing something that's marginally better, or at least marginally more hyped, or hits an audience in a way that is more compelling or addictive in some fashion. It's a really, really, really dangerous game, betting everything on one thing. And now, these days, AAA and quadruple A budgets.
And the super games, don't forget the super games.
Mega game, you mean?
Was it a super game? And then
was it? Oh no, am I wrong?
And then don't forget Ubisoft's large one coming through.
Sega Super Game. It's a Super Game. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The budgets are astronomical, and
$162 million. I mean, if we think back to the revenue figures, we go, we're bigger than we're bigger than music. Do albums cost $162 million?
And actually, if you look at the sort of portfolios of Hollywood studios, they have a range of titles, right? They don't just back their mega summer blockbusters, but they back plenty of smaller movies as well. And what you have is, a lot of them fail. A lot of the blockbusters fail as well. But there will be 1 or 2 or 10 breakout smaller films which 10 times their budget or 100 times their budget, and they support the next round of things. So you've got to spread your bets, like not just at the high scale, but at the low scale as well. And in a sense, game development is cheaper now than it has ever been. But you don't see the big publishers gambling on smaller titles. And I think that if you don't have a live service game that's just pumping money through your organisation, that's another way of doing that, supporting hundreds of smaller titles and seeing where that gets you.
Did you also see who else announced tricky times financially this week?
I did not.
Frontier.
Really?
Their share price fell 40% on Monday.
Right.
Due to weaker than expected sales of Formula One Manager. And uncertain sales of their third-party publishing titles. That's tricky. Devolver had a tricky Monday as well. I think it's pretty tough out there, Steve. What are we going to do if it all goes tease up?
What, you our backup careers?
Yeah.
Well, I
OnlyFans.
Maraoke fans is where I'm going, I think.
Is it? Okay.
I bet everything on our stupid songs, maybe.
Well, if we charge $162 million to write them.
It's a live service game of a sort, isn't it? All right, next news story.
Days before the service closes for good, Google Stadia has released one final game which represents a piece of its history. Worm Game was added to the service on Friday. The simple, snake-like title was used to test Stadia's cloud features before it launched in 2019, according to Google. Play the game that came to Stadia before Stadia came to the world, it said. Worm Game was a humble title we used to test many of Stadia's features, starting well before our 2019 public launch, right through 2022. It won't win Game of the Year, but the Stadia team spent a lot of time playing it, and we thought we'd share it with you. Thanks for playing and for everything. Google announced last year that the game streaming service will be shut down on January the 18th, 2023, when players will lose access to their game library. At the time, it also confirmed that it intended to refund all Stadia hardware purchases made through the Google Store, and that all game and add-on content purchases made through the Stadia Store would be refunded. Also, according to Google, the underlying technology platform that powers Stadia will be used across other parts of the company like YouTube, Google Play, and its augmented reality efforts. So, Steve, tomorrow, on Wednesday, in 2 days' time, if you're listening to the radio show on Resonance 104.4 FM, or today, if you're listening to the podcast as it's uploaded, your last chance to play Stadia. Will you miss it, Steve?
I will not miss it because I never had an opportunity to play Stadia. I suppose I did have an opportunity. I could have bought a Stadia kit, but I didn't. You did. I didn't, because, of course, and maybe this is the last ever time we'll get a chance to mention this, but back in the day, we were invited to a round table with Stadia head honcho Phil Harrison, and then uninvited from the round table once we had said, okay, apparently there were not enough seats at the round table.
That's really when their problems started, isn't it? When they weren't featured on the world's longest running radio show.
I don't want to say that we are directly responsible for the situation Stadia find themselves in, but it couldn't have hurt. Well, actually, it could have hurt. It could have hurt. We could have accelerated their demise if we were around that round table. So, but you've got yours. You're showing it off to us right now on camera.
It's mint, still shrink wrapped. Actually, this one.
Okay.
One place for all the ways that we play. It says proudly on the box. Yeah. I forget why I've got this because I already had one. I did a joke before Christmas when we were counting down to Jingle Jam, and they wanted a picture of me holding a sign up counting down how many days it was to Jingle Jam. And I arranged myself in a photo like the American Beauty image, and I had console controllers all around me, and I smashed all of them under there, and I smashed up the Stadia one, and that was lying broken beside me as a little joke, which no one spotted, or perhaps they didn't find it funny. And I wondered at the time whether I should be smashing it up, because the Stadia controller doesn't work with any other consoles, and only works with your PC if you plug it in. It's a really nice controller, actually. To be fair to Stadia, to Google, they've announced this week that next week they will be releasing a tool that will unlock the controller and that you will be able to use it Bluetooth on the OS. So good on them for that. Good on them for refunding everybody. Good on them for even, showing how the service came to be with Worm Game. Whilst I didn't spend a huge amount on Stadia, I was impressed with the technology, and it's just a real shame that the business model was just wrong.
What would you have done differently?
I would have found a way. Well, I think at the moment, outside of Game Pass Ultimate, which has some pretty decent streaming, but you're not in control of that library, right? So you can only, at the moment, you can only stream games that are in the Game Pass library. I believe that there are moves to address that. But the best kind of solution at the moment is NVIDIA's GeForce Now, which allows you to stream games you own on Steam, on Epic, or on Ubisoft Connect. To a browser or a compatible device, and even TVs and stuff. And there is a free tier for that, or you can pay for additional services and stuff. And that way, the subscription that you're paying is to effectively as a platform to play your own games that you own. Whereas Stadia required you to have separate premium purchases. Cyberpunk, Red Dead 2, they were all £60, and that's. I think very few people were ever going to use Stadia as their primary source of gaming. You're only going to use it as a backup or something to play while you're away, or to play on your phone even. And that's an awful lot of money, particularly when you're a company with Google's history of shutting down services. So the actual technology was incredibly impressive, and in some way, it's a real shame. But ultimately, there were some questionable decisions that just led to it not being adopted.
Still, it gave you an opportunity to put together a photo shoot, which
it did. Yep,
people appreciated.
So thank you for that. PlayStation 5 owners in the UK are far more likely to consider it their main console than Xbox Series XS owners. A new survey has found, research by Ampere Analysis, claims that 71% of respondents who said they owned the disc version of the PS5 said they used that console the most. Meanwhile, all those who said they owned the Xbox Series X or Series S, that number dropped to 48% and 35% respectively, whilst 49% of Switch owners considered it their main system. The figures appear to support the theory that a number of players buy Xbox consoles, particularly the lower-priced Xbox Series S, to use as secondary Game Pass systems. Somewhat curiously, the data also shows that 43% of players who own the digital edition of the PlayStation 5 consider it their main system. This may suggest that the more dedicated Sony fans are more likely to purchase a disc-based version of that console. Ampere's analysis suggests that one of the reasons so many PS5 owners consider it their main console is because PS5 owners are more likely to be single console owners. However, it adds this does not fully explain the disparity in this measure between the PS5 disc-based version and Microsoft's Xbox Series X, its key competitor on the market, having launched at the same time. Analyst Piers Harding Rolls providing more analysis on Twitter. He said, in a market where most console gamers play across multiple consoles, including cross brands, the role of the primary console has big implications for monetization of users, lifetime value and market share, he explained. It's early days, but this suggests Sony's exclusive strategy and brand strength has not been substantially disrupted by Microsoft's Game Pass strategy yet. However, he points out, of course, this metric does not show the comparative time spent on different consoles. So that ratio may well be changing, and 2023 is a big year for Game Pass and Microsoft exclusives. I was watching... I went to see Derren Brown last Saturday. I didn't mention this in the show last week, did I? It was really good, really good. He did the best magic trick I have ever seen with my own eyes.
Wow.
He says to attendees of the show that you're not supposed to talk about it, so I won't go into too much detail. However, I was trying to work out how he did it, and the drive back with Dexter. So Dexter took me for my Christmas present from him, which was lovely. I was trying to work out, and I was like, so I was sort of speculating. I was like, maybe he did it like this, or maybe he did it like this. Or perhaps this is how he did it. Dexter's explanation, Dexter, 14, his explanation was, no, Dad, he definitely hypnotized the entire audience. Now, I mention that because my enjoyment of the show was somewhat tempered by a notification I got from American Express, which is a credit card tied to my PlayStation 5, which said, you have been billed £100 from Sony for another year of PlayStation Plus. Oh. Now, I own a PlayStation 5. I haven't turned it on for a while, so I was very surprised. Very surprised to receive this. And fortunately, I got the notification just at the interval because it made me really angry. Oh, bugger, £100. Anyway, I have to say it was resolved very quickly via the chatbot, and as a one-time gesture of goodwill, they've refunded the money. What I'm saying is, check your auto-reading settings before you go and see Derren Brown.
Well, that sounds fun, Simon. I don't have a PlayStation.
So it's not your primary console?
So it's not my primary console. I wonder how much of this was skewed by the difficulty of getting hold of a PlayStation. It makes sense to me that people who have the disc-based version regard it, are more sort of gamery than other people regard it as their primary console and are more dedicated in buying things because it was more expensive, right? The disc-based version. It was,
yeah. Yes, but so presumably the more you spend on something, the more you're going to value it, and it is it is the most expensive one. So, interesting nonetheless.
It is. One more news story?
Not for me.
Oh, okay. Let me find one. Okay, I've got one. Goose Duck has reached 800,000 concurrent players. That's according to Justin Carter from GameDeveloper.com. Gaggle Studios has announced its social PvP game Goose Duck has recently hit that number across PC and mobile. It's an impressive milestone for the game to hit, particularly when just last week it only had 500,000. That's still quite a lot, IMO. The bulk of that player count is on PC. SteamDB's chart put the game at around 703,000 at the time of writing. According to Gaggle's press release, that player count translates to effectively eliminating in excess of 9 million geese per Day. If you haven't played it, the cleverly titled Goose Game is like Among Us in that players complete tasks, accuse other players of wrongdoing, but play as geese or ducks if you're a saboteur. Simon, have you played this game?
I have not played this game, Steve.
Have you heard of this game?
I have heard of it, yes, mainly through this news story.
Yeah, well, that doesn't count.
Oh, sorry, yeah, not
not in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah,
but,
exactly, yeah.
This stuck out to me because it is the first time I've heard of this game too, which sounds like a bit of a phenomenon. Do you know why, or one of the reasons it blew up?
Yes, it was streamed by a J-pop star, wasn't it?
K-pop.
K-pop, S-pop, L-pop.
Yes, BTS member Kim Tae-hyung streamed himself playing the game back in December 2022. An 11-minute stream that, according to this article, was probably the best thing to happen to the game. I've never played one of these social elimination games. Have you?
Terrible confession time. I've never played Among Us.
That's what I mean. That's kind of what I'm heading towards.
Well, I'm just saying it, Steve, rather than being all coy about it. I just don't like lying.
Really?
I find it really stressful. Yeah, I've played The Resistance, the card game, and I've played Werewolf here and there, and what was the other one? Two Booms in a Room, something like that. It's just really hard. There's Spyfall. I find horrific. I mean, again, Dexter really likes that guy. It's just awful when you have to lie about it. I just start crying.
Over the Christmas period, I consumed two pieces of televisual media that were influenced, I think, by Among Us, or referenced it.
I said this exactly today as well, Steve.
Did you?
To Jonathan Smith and his son. I did. You're going to mention The Traitors, aren't you?
That was going to be my second one. Do you know what the first one was?
No, I don't.
In Netflix movie Glass Onion.
Oh, I've not seen that yet.
Benoit plays Among Us, is playing Among Us with a...
Oh, really?
A group of detectives or mystery solvers, at least. It's only a short reference, but when I watched Traitors, I've never played Werewolf or any of these games, but I imagine that where that came from is the sort of sudden, or not sudden, gradual explosion. Is that a thing? Gradual explosions of this kind of party game, which is obviously rooted in things like Werewolf, which you've played. I have not. Did you watch Traitors?
Yes, I did. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch all of it. I sort of dipped in and dipped out.
I watched all of it across 4 nights, 3 episodes a night. I thought it was really, really good. Although, ironically, like for a series that is essentially based on a game, or is a game, I thought the weakest parts were the games inside the game, which kind of tedious. But
it was odd that I thought I was going to say who the traitors were then, but if you've not seen it, I shouldn't do. I thought that the traitors, particularly the one that sort of was the most prominent, I thought that person was excellent, and it was just something I could not have done. What I found strange about that game was that there was no element of sabotage to it.
I agree.
Which felt weird to me.
I agree. This is the thing. I said while I was watching it that to me, I had so before all of this, I say I've never played any social engineering games, but actually I went to Disneyland with friend of the show Michael about 7 or 8 years ago. We were there, and it was a group of 5 of us, I think, and we played a game across the course of the day. And at the start of the day, we drew lots, and one of us was a saboteur. One of us was the mole. And during the course of the day, the mole's job was to ruin the day for everybody else, right? without giving it away. And then at the end of the day, stood by the Disneyland castle, at the end of every day at Disneyland, they set off fireworks as a big display. And during the fireworks, the climax of the day, we were to reveal which one of us was the mole. And it went brilliantly. It was really, really good because there was this thin air of suspicion about everyone all day. And the mole got away with it. It turns out they had sabotaged the day by, for example, they put a little stone in someone's shoe, so they were a little bit uncomfortable walking around. At lunch, they hid the salt and pepper. So there's no salt and pepper available. Cute little things like that. At the end of the day, there was an accusation. We all failed, and there was a big moment of reveal. It was really, really good. I was surprised that in the traitors, there was no payoff for the traitors sabotaging the games they were playing. So, for example, I would have rigged it that, if they stopped the faithful gaining £1,000, then they got that £1,000. That's
exactly.
That day.
Yeah.
And then there'd be more suspicion because if someone screws up, then they're like, no, I didn't do that deliberately. And I love that sort of mechanic. But one of my thoughts was that, someone who thinks about games a lot, I guess sometimes those extra layers make things more complicated, and introducing someone to the whole structure of the traitors is quite complex from the start, which I guess is why they only introduced the shield mechanic after a couple of evictions. And maybe also you want to give yourself somewhere to go for Series 2 and Series 3 and Series 4, so maybe that comes in. Or maybe we're just smarter.
Unlikely, Steve.
Very unlikely. All right, that's all the news. Thanks, Simon.
That's all the news.
One Life Left video game news with Anne Scantleberry.
You're listening to One Life Left on Resonance 104.4 FM. We're a video game radio show. We've been going for ages and ages and ages, and we have maintained the same standard consistently since 2006, for better or worse. You can find our podcast as well at www.onelifeleft.com. There you will find the show notes, which have been put together by our producer, Phil. You can also find a list of links at hello.onelifeleft.com, one of which will send you to our Discord, where we chat about the show. Simon, we had 3 new Discord members within 24 hours this week. It was quite a rush.
Welcome.
Unbelievably exciting times, one of whom was Violet Berlin.
Oh, lovely. Well, what prompted Violet to join us?
She wanted to ask when the next Maraoke was, but she wasn't able to find the Maraoke Discord.
Excellent work.
Yeah, it was perfect. I reminded her we had a radio show. Maybe she's listening right now.
Perhaps she could come on.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Would be lovely. I've not spoken to Violet for a long, long time.
Consider this an invite, Violet, if you are indeed listening. Any other business?
Did you tell her when the Maraoke is or not? Or should we tell her in a subsequent episode?
I made her go over to the Maraoke Discord. The next Maraoke, while we're on that subject, is on the 21st. It's on the Saturday of this week. Tickets available now. We are having this one in Stratford at Rule Zero, which should be fun. Look forward to seeing you all there. Well, not all of you. That would be a fire hazard. 50 of you, which might be all of you. Who knows? Comfortably fit you all inside that venue. It's going to be brilliant. Excited to do that. You got any other business, Simon? Should we get on with the letters?
No other business from me.
Here's the letters.
Email, messages, and forward BCC. One Life Letters.
Chris Conroy wrote the team and SSG conference level 70%, he writes in brackets. This week has mostly been spent grinding my way through the never-ending challenges in Gran Turismo 7 to try to unlock the local multiplayer option. 10 hours of play, unskippable videos and numerous offbeat missions later, some of the fun and spontaneity with which I approached the game has faded a bit, and I'm wondering why a big part of the game, unrelated to the single-player campaign, was stuck behind so much progression-based gatekeeping. Having to take a virtual car to the virtual car wash to get access to a big part of a game that I paid for feels a bit much. Oh no, please make me feel better about how I spend my free time. Give me some more extreme examples of gatekeeping. Your car cleaning correspondent, Chris Conroy. Well, I didn't know that was the case. That's a strange decision, isn't it? I wonder what the reason for that is.
I mean, I've never enjoyed GT. I was going to say GT,
GTs,
whatever number, yeah, GT,
7.
Any of them. For me, I'm not very interested in cars. It's a fairly serious car game, but there's been a lot of people talking about it on the One Life Left Discord. Really, really cross at this kind of thing. Have you seen this discussion, Simon?
I hadn't done, Steve. No, it's...
So Tony Gowland, our friend from Ant Workshop, said, GT7, I've never played a racing game that wants to stand in the way of me racing fun cars so much. How far this series has fallen since the pure driving thrills of 1 and 2. Absolute. And then he says a swear word I can't read out. I know. You're allowed to swear on the Discord, but not on the radio.
What time of day did he post? It'd be on the source, did he?
It was at 9 p.m, so hard to know what got into him. But yeah, genuinely sounds like a bit of a slog, even for what I think is a boring game anyway.
I can't think of any examples where other bits and stuff have been hidden behind this sort of thing before. Apologies. But I mean, you can sort of understand the principle, right? You want some people to play the game a bit before letting them loose into multiplayer, but that does seem a bit much.
Yeah, well, I think the game that I'm going to talk about in the review section actually falls victim to locking things down a bit and not letting me have enough fun. But we'll get to that in 5 or so minutes, I imagine. Okay, there's a couple of letters in the Discord, which I can deal with now.
Good.
Give me a second because I've changed my subfolder on the Discord. Here we go. All right, Dbot writes this. Hello team and SSG. I was recently reminded of the occasion I played and won Smash Brothers while controlling it with my feet in order to prove there was no skill involved. In your experience, what's the best game controller to use with what unusual part of your body? It goes on to say, I mean not your hands. Bonus points if your non-hand part of body part of choice has some exceptionally unusual distinguishing features. Toodles, Damien.
That's fantastic, Dbot. Well done on that. It does make me feel even sadder because I'm very bad at Smash Brothers. So if there's no skill involved, then what does that mean for me?
I mean, I think there is skill involved at a certain level, but broadly... Yeah, I couldn't beat anyone at Smash Brothers who's actually good at Smash Brothers, but I think that I could beat most people by playing with my feet if I was lucky. Could
you beat Damien with his feet?
No, because clearly
his feet.
He's a foot-based Smash Brothers professional. I'm not getting involved in that kind of esport. I don't want to touch the controller either after he's done that, like, frankly. You think he had his socks on?
Yeah, it's not turn-based, Steve. You can have separate controllers.
Yeah, but someone's got to use player 2 or player 1. I don't know. Anyway,
just give it a wipe.
I don't know. I've never really tried. I mean, I know there's a bit of a fad for playing, things with DDR controllers. I saw a woman completing Dark Souls on one map while playing Elden Ring on another.
Exactly,
that kind of thing. And it is impressive in that kind of. You bet style way. Obviously, again, like you referencing the poster for American Beauty, I'm doing another reference which is aged out somewhat. But You Bet being the game show from the 1990s, was it? I think, where people would come on and prove their unusual abilities, such as recognizing any car by the sound the car door made when it closed, all that kind of thing. And it is momentarily impressive, but you're also like, why though? Now, for Dbot's Smash Brothers example, I think that's an excellent reason, is to just call Smash Brothers players out as charlatans. And but I don't know about the... I suppose the answer is why? Because I can. Like, why'd you climb a mountain, Simon? Why'd you climb Everest? Because it's there. Got better things to do, like playing Dark Souls with a dance mat. don't know.
We should address Weasel Spoon's Discord letter from last week, where he says, "Hello team, hello SDSG, Happy New Year. As is traditional to ask, what have you going with 2022 and what are you most excited to play in 2023? I think we talked about our games 2022, but I just wondered, Steve, if there's anything this year that you are particularly looking forward to."
Good question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What should I be excited about?
Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
Tears of a Kingdom.
Nah. I will play it, but like, I don't know. For me, excitement indicates the sort of like, I can't wait until this comes out. Like, it feels like forever away. Like, I was genuinely in the week that Dwarf Fortress was about to be released for PC, or at least released via Steam. I was genuinely excited. Like, is it Wednesday yet? Like, I think it came out on Wednesday. Don't know. I was like, is it out yet? And then, but I can't think of anything that I'm really, really anticipating this year.
Steve.
What are you anticipating? You've said
Zelda.
Okay.
That's the biggie for me this year. That'd be weird. It'd be weird playing on my Switch again, of having got used to accommodating such a large, weighty device in the Steam Deck. But it'd be good to get cracking on that, I think.
Get cracking sort of indicates a kind of drudgery that you feel obliged. Get cracking.
Well, it's just a big adventure, isn't it?
It's big. It's a lot.
So get stuck in.
Got a lot to get through.
900 Korok seeds. I mean, how can they improve upon it, Steve?
Good question. Well, now I am excited for it, Simon. But I get most of my game recommendations the week they come out. I see them on the Steam trailers and 6 seconds things and get excited. And I think that's a much better way to live, right? Because it's just there and you can play it.
Never look forward to anything, exactly.
No, never look forward to always assume everything's going to be disastrous and be pleasantly surprised when it's not. If you've got any letters that you would like us to answer or stumble over on One Life Left, you can do so by writing to
team@onelifeleft.com
or dropping your letter in the mailbag channel on Discord. You're listening to One Life Left on Resonance 104.4 FM. We're a video game radio show. As I have said before, this is the any other business part of the show before we dive into the review. Simon, do you have anything to say? I have something to say.
Okay, all I'm just going to say is that Golfy leaves early access this Thursday, and if you've not checked it out, then do, please. It'll be launching with full online multiplayer on Thursday, so maybe see you on the fairway.
That's exciting. I wrote a game this week.
What?
I know. I wrote a game, so that's exciting. Like, that's on exciting on a personal level. And
where can we play this game?
Well, you can't play it anywhere yet, but I showed it to the team, and it's very simple and stupid.
What team? Have you got a team?
Yeah, I've got a team. I've got a game studio. Oh my God, Simon! Can you spend too much time with Jonathan Smith listening to his dreams and adventures, and not enough time listening to mine? Anyway, maybe try and get something out in a couple of weeks. Just a very, very simple web thing that I made. And I made it all on my own. Guess what, Simon? I did the coding.
Oh, congratulations.
Me.
What would you say your worst fudge is, or have you left any comments in there that you would be embarrassed for somebody else to poke through your code?
I'll tell you what certainly, I think it's going to be rewritten by one of our actual coders before it goes live, but there is an infinite loop in there, which for a short period of time was hammering Google with requests like 1 million times per second. So there is a bodge in there, it's not bodge, a thing that says pause for a second before you hit Google again. And there is a comment next to that says, this line to stop Google getting cross with you, Steve.
Nice.
That wasn't what I was going to say, though. That reminded that by your Golfy comment. Very excited. Love Golfy. The thing I was going to say is, Simon, did you see what I did this week on Eurogamer?
I did see it, Steve. I did see you moonlighting. You're a games journalist.
I know. For the first time in, I reckon, 20 years or something like that. Maybe when did I stop? Stopped around the same time as One Life Left started, so 2006, so 17 years or so. I'm a published games writer.
How did that feel?
It was genuinely quite exciting. I was lucky enough to be asked by the brilliant Chris Donlan, who I genuinely think is the best writer on video games today. He's Eurogamer's features editor. He got in touch just before Christmas and said he wanted to republish one of my pieces on Eurogamer. And they did, untouched, with lovely, lovely art. And if you want to find that, head over to Eurogamer, search for The Queen. It's a story I wrote a while ago, and I still think it's pretty good. It was really nice to do that.
I read some of the comments, actually. They were very complimentary.
Much too kind, I think, but it was nice to have something low risk on the site there where it would be difficult for people to get cross about it. So that was great. Cool. That's all I have to say, Simon. Shall we do the reviews?
Let's do the reviews.
Here we go. Right, do you want to start or shall I?
Well, we're running quite late, so I won't talk about the new game I've been playing, but I will say that I got to the end of Fenix Rising, Ubisoft's Breath of the Wild alike.
Hold on. Is that Fenix or is it Phoenix?
Oh, sorry, Phoenix. Sorry,
must be
Phoenix. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Apologies. And it just pinged me off, Steve. I got to the final. Last week I mentioned that all the bosses were really straightforward. They have a 20-minute final boss that goes through 4 different stages, and you're at a part in the game that you cannot top up your potions or your equipment. Now, it does warn you this before you go in. It says, you're about to reach the end game or what have you. But what it doesn't say is that, you've got an hour's dungeon before you meet this boss. And so that actually you can't just pop out and pop back in again. I've tried it 4 times and I've got to what I think must be the final stage. Died during that, and I thought it's taken me 20 minutes to go to get there. And so I've just uninstalled it in a huff, which makes me really annoyed that I even bothered to get that far in the stupid game in the stupid first place. Now, it has difficulty options, but you can't change difficulty unless you're in a safe area, and you're not because you're in the final dungeon. So what's the whole point of that? What's the point of that? I'm glad you're in financial trouble. 7 out of 10.
Clip that out for the podcast excerpt, please. Man, I was worried about being too negative with my review. I've been playing.
Really enjoying it up until now. Really enjoying it. It's just really sad to take. Sorry.
I've been playing Sports Story on the Nintendo Switch. Have you played it, Simon?
I've not, Steve.
Did you play Golf Story?
I did.
Right. What do you think of Golf Story?
I didn't like it.
Okay, then there's no reason you should play Sports Story.
No.
I really did like Golf Story. It had exactly the right amount of golf, which is a game I always think I want to play, and when I play it, I find it a little bit boring, but still it's kind of fun. And then it has this very light Zelda-ish or, Harvest Moon style top-down, Japanese-style 2D, exploring, talking to people, solving mini-problems, fetch quests, and then some 2D sports stuff in there as well. So I thought I would love Sports Story as well, and it does have a lot of that really, really charming world and light sports stuff, but it feels rushed, and it feels like they've released it too early. Now, partly because of quality of life issues, I'm having to watch listen to lots and lots of written dialogue, and it just comes out so slowly, and there's no way of skipping the dialogue. By skipping, I don't mean not reading it, but pressing, typically in these things, you press A or something, and it fast forwards the dialogue to the next line. There's none of that, and so it takes... What? If you hold down all of the buttons, then it kind of does that, but in a really cumbersome way, and you probably end up making decisions you don't want to do. I want to read the dialogue, but I don't want it to take as long as it does to deliver it. That is a really, really big error in a game that is as dialogue dependent as this. But there's also bugs. And I know there are bugs because I got stuck in what I thought was one. It turned out to not be a bug, just poor design. But on Googling it, yeah, there are lots and lots of people who've found bugs in the game. There have been a couple of patches already. And I fell victim to what I thought was one. Instead, as said, was poor design, which is endemic. Like, it's throughout the game. Things are not explained. So it will say, go and get this thing, but it won't hint enough where that thing is, and you find yourself walking around in loops forever trying to find the right person to talk to, and eventually giving up, and then coming back to it, and it's the person you stood next to. It doesn't handhold enough, and yet somehow handholds all the time. The only reason I was playing it is because it's got cricket in it, which is phenomenal, and I've just started playing the cricket, and I'm really excited about that. So, 7 out of 10.
Good stuff, Steve. Well, bang up against it. What that clock on the top there? What is that? Is that the actual time?
The time? What clock on top?
Of the recording from the start of the opening credits?
Yeah, in the bottom left, we're on 59 minutes and 12 seconds. So we've got to end the show.
It's top right for me. Play the theme.
All right. See you next week, everybody. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Yay!